Welcome to The Pestle, reviewing and breaking down movies to look for insights into the movie-making process. Hosted by reboots, remakes, comic book movies, and sequels to reboots, remakes, and comic book movies. Let's dim the lights and start the show.
Welcome, everyone, to The Pestle. Today's show is brought to you by the Tashi Duncan Center for Girls, taking at-risk kids off the street and onto the courts. Welcome, everyone, to The Pestle. I am Wes.
And I am Todd.
And we're filmmakers, and we do all kinds of stuff. It's so funny. If we were to... I'm really bad. I was telling you before we rolled that I just picked up a new project, and I was trying to remember all the stuff that I do, and I just forget. We do so many things, so many projects all over the place. Like, obviously, I write and direct and produced reluctantly. You produce and you make music, and we both act, and a dozen other things, I'm sure. But it's just so funny because I will forget all the things we do. And I was trying to tell this new client, and I was like, they were like, yeah, what else you been working on? And I was like, oh God, I can't remember what I did this past week. And usually, like, I write down a list of things I have to do, and then when I check them off, like, my brain frees up that hard drive space. So it was like I emptied the trash bin, and now I'm on to the next. And let alone, and he was like, yeah, because this is a guy you and I both worked with a long time ago, almost 20 years. 20 years ago, actually, not almost. And crazy. And he was like, yeah, what else have you been up to in the interim? I was like, oh geez, man. Like, I don't know. Like, all kinds of things. And you and I just this past week, and we'll forget about it, as sometimes with PTSD, you just, like, it's a mark on your brain and you just try to forget. Like, we just did a bunch of dubbing for I don't even know anymore. It's a Chinese micro drama that was being handled by, like, an Indian production company that contracted us to do, like, an English VO dubbing, and just was the worst thing ever. All that to say, we do a lot of stuff, right?
We do a lot of stuff.
Too many things.
You do what you got to do to get by, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just like Ryland Grace.
Damn right, man. Yeah. What are we doing today, man?
Today we're taking a trip. We are covering Project Hail Mary, which is out in theaters at the time of recording this. So if you haven't seen the film, please pause it and go watch it, because pause this and go watch it, because we're going to spoil all the things, and you don't want that.
You do not want that. We'll probably talk about a lot. I'm going to be honest, don't have a ton in my notes, just a few quick hitters. But I bet a bunch of stuff will come out. But at least we'll talk about story and writing, starting with tone, and other such stuff and things and stuff.
And a quick synopsis of the film. Science teacher Ryland Grace wakes up alone on a spaceship light years from Earth. As his memory returns, he uncovers a mission to stop a mysterious substance killing the sun and save Earth. An unexpected friendship may be the key. Directed by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller. Screenplay by Drew Goddard. Based on the novel by Andy Weir. Cinematography by Greg Fraser. It's featuring Ryan Gosling as Ryland Grace, Sandra Huller as Eva Stratt, James Ortiz as Rocky, and Lionel Boyce as Carl. And
no soundbite. Dude, you and I both came in with a lot of expectations on this, and I didn't know, like, you had already consumed the book, and you can touch on that, but it's just so funny how that can shape your experience of the film itself. But I guess before getting into the movie itself, like, what was your experience, like, being excited for this movie? Where did you first enter into this universe?
So when I was moving out to California in 2021, I was driving the U-Haul, and I listening to the audiobook of this, which is super famous. Like, the audiobook from this is, like, really famous. Like, people are like, it's almost better than the book itself. Ooh. It's like, it really puts you into it. And I don't listen to a ton of audiobooks. I do when, I've got a lot of time to kill, which is not very often. But when I'm sitting in a car or in a U-Haul alone, because my kids are in in the other car that my wife is driving, and I'm just sitting there with my birds. Like, what do I do? So I listened to it, and it was fantastic. I was just like, I didn't listen to a single song. I was just so into it. And every time we'd stop to pause, it'd be like, okay, let's get back on the road so I can keep listening to it. So yeah, which is the book, but it's an audiobook. So it's being read. So it is the book, but it's being performed.
Right. Yeah, because
yeah.
I read the book after I had just finished Ayn Rand's Fountainhead. Your wife gave me Fountainhead a long time ago, and I was like, I need to get to this. And you know what? I could handle something chunky right now. And by the time I was done with that book, I just needed a palate cleanser. And I was like, I need something fun, sci-fi. And I was like, oh, I remember liking Andy Weir, so I read Artemis. And I was like, that was solid. Like, it was a fun heist caper thing. And I was like, what else has he got going on? Project Hail Mary? I don't know. I don't know about this title. Anything with Hail Mary in it. And I'm just like, this could go any direction. And I was like, F it, I'll read it. I went in completely blind to this book, and it melted my face off. I was just an advocate. I was like, hey, have you heard the good word from Andy Weir?
I might have listened to it because you.
No, I was curious about this because I was like, maybe I told Todd, but I don't remember ever talking to you about this. And what I realized is I read this in March 2023, several months after you had already come across it. And so we both, not surprisingly, right, because we're such sci-fi geeks, we both separately entered into this amazing story. And I just thought that's the coolest thing in the world is even though like we talk every week and, you know, somehow we both didn't have that conversation. And it makes sense that you got to Cali. The last thing we were going to talk about is anything other than you, like, and how you were settling in. So it just kind of makes sense that, you know, you wouldn't have told me either. But yeah, so we were both, as it turns out, wildly excited for this movie because of how big of fans we are of the book. And so going into this, I guess you were jazzed out of your head.
Oh yeah. I mean, you know, any space movie I'm in, especially one with Ryan Gosling and a story that I already kind of was pretty familiar with. I say kind of because it was like 5 years ago that I listened to the audiobook. Yeah. So there's plenty that I didn't remember. But just revisiting that experience, you know, on a big screen. And I wish I would have seen it in IMAX because I know it is playing in IMAX, but I really wish I would have. But there isn't one super near me. So anyway, what I thought about the movie. Yeah. So I will say that a couple of things. First off, well, I'll do a sandwich here. First off, I think I enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought that it was shot really beautifully, and that there were a lot of like moments that were emotional. I loved how they did Rocky practically. Took like 5 puppeteers to do Rocky. Wow. There is some CGI, but a lot. It's almost all him, people running him. And I love that they did that. They didn't go CGI for him. Like they really put a lot of thought and love and effort into him because you have to love him. Yeah. You have to. And I really do. I thought that James Ortiz did an excellent job as Rocky. I totally believed it was him. And it was fantastic. I thought that Sandra Huller, I thought she did an excellent job as well. I don't think that this was Ryan Gosling's best performance. I thought that there were moments where it was just a little lackluster, but I do think he was right for the role. I think he was like a great Ryland Grace, a great choice for that. And it gets people in the seats. It's like, you know, we talk about this all the time about like, you know, you don't have to have an A-list actor. You don't have to, but when you have a $250 million budget, which they did, by the way, you're going to get anybody that you want. So you get somebody who's going to get their butts in seats because you got to make your money back, but also you have to tell a really good story. And I couldn't, I'm sure somebody else would have done a great job, but I just loved him in this role because there needed to be a lot of comedic moments. And I think that Ryan is really great at doing that. He's great at like being serious, but then having a comedic moment that you believe right next to it. I do think that there were too many comedic moments. I feel like there were too many moments where I didn't just sit in it, and where it would have been great to just sit there for another, 6 seconds or 10 seconds and be silent, or just be present, whether it's silent or not. But then they would come out of it almost immediately with some kind of comedic line from either Grace or Rocky, right? Or just something funny would happen. So yeah, all in all, I would say I really enjoyed it. I wanted to go see it again and I'm going to take my son. My son was really mad that I didn't take him. I was like, look, it's PG-13. I don't know. I'm pretty sure everything's going to be fine, but I don't know how they're going to portray everything on screen, because there is some death and whatever. So, but now that I've seen it, I totally can take him. So I need to go take him. And I think he's going to love it. He's going to love Rocky, and it's awesome. I love the story. I love the idea in all of these movies, aliens are apocalyptic and they come to destroy us. And why not have a movie where not only do they not want to destroy us, but they're having the same problems as we are, right? And they're just as smart and figured out, hey, let's go to this place where it's not happening and try to figure it out, right? That's brilliant. I think it's so cool. A couple of things because I did look up a little bit of detail about like how they shot this, and I think it's like super cool to talk about. And first off, excuse me. First off, they shot it on digital. They used an Alexa, but then they ran it through IMAX film.
Nice. And
then back to digital.
Yeah.
And his reasoning was he wanted to take the edge off the digital image, but he didn't want it as grainy as film would give you. So he put it back into digital to clean it up a little bit. I thought that was really cool and brilliant. And like you don't have to lug around the giant IMAX camera or invent a whole new camera, right? They did make custom lenses and stuff for them because they shot vertically. So if you look at the lens flares, they're vertical, not horizontal. And because they shot it vertically to get the width that he wanted with these anamorphic lenses, which I don't know. How do you do that? You just put the camera on its side, I guess.
Maybe so. Yeah, that would be my assumption, but I have no idea. I've only shot. And it was probably an Alexa 65, right? So
I think so.
Taking advantage.
It was
of
an Alexa
full,
something.
Yeah, I would imagine 65. I've obviously never shot with that.
But that just goes to show you, like, there is no right way. Whether or not they needed to do that, there's no right way. Like, I have this idea. How does this look? Oh, this looks better. Okay, let's do that. Great, awesome. The last thing I'll say is that that I thought was really cool was that the scene where Grace is outside of the spaceship and he's looking at the giant colorful planet, and then he hits the button and we see all of the specks of the dots, the IR. And in the movie, he can't see it, but we can see it as viewers. Well, in the movie, he eventually can see it. But when they were filming, he couldn't see it. Like they did that all practically.
Yeah.
The IR dots, they did it practically, and but he couldn't see it because obviously you can't see infrared light. But in camera, they could see it. And so Ryan's like, he's doing his acting, whatever, and then he wouldn't know what it looked like. And they'd show him on the monitor and he'd be like, oh my God, this is amazing. Because you could see it immediately on the monitor because it's practical, but it's IR light. I thought that was so cool. Whoa. I mean, making movies is so cool sometimes, man. And like just knowing how they do stuff. They built the entire ship, and they built it really big. It was like 8 feet wide and everything so that they could move around in it. And they made all the panels look different because at the time, their idea was like, you have a bunch of countries coming together to make this thing. So you have a part from Russia, a part from China, a part from US, and just kind of, glob them together. I thought that was cool. Anyway, I had a great time watching it. It wasn't perfect, but I think this is what theaters need. This is what we need. We need more stuff like this. We need more stuff that gets people excited and into a theater, and great stories that can be uplifting and don't have to be, apocalyptic. Of course, we need those too, but I think that this came at a perfect time. There's a lot going on in the world too that's like really sucks, and just to have a little bit of joy. I feel like this was such a joyous story, especially at the end. I love that, and I don't remember this in the book. Maybe you do. That they're sitting on the beach, and Rocky tells him, hey, they're almost done with your ship if you're ready to go. And then he says, I'll think about it. He said, and then Rocky says, take your time. I don't remember that being in the book. Maybe it was, but I hope it wasn't, and they just took the liberty, because that really nailed home that like he wants to be there, Yeah. Anyway, that's all. I'll stop there. But what did you think?
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything you said I disagree with, and I don't think so. I think if you're gonna, have someone that needs to do the balance of humor and drama, you're probably not going to do better than Ryan Gosling. Like, he's pretty effortless in being able to pull off like humor and sincerity in a way that never pushes into cartooniness. And so I thought, casting wise, great. And also like to your point, someone that can get audiences to pay attention and show up, for sure. I had a great time. I'm really glad. I don't know. The tone of your review is I enjoyed it, but maybe not quite as much as I wanted to going in. And that's exactly how I felt. I thought I was going to be the odd one out because I did enjoy it. Like, I'm glad it got made. But I think my big reservation was there was just a little too much silly humor. And that's tough. And I had to really think about it for a while, because the experience, and this is where I wonder if not reading the book makes this a much, much better movie. Because as whatever cliche as it is, like the book is better, kind of thing. This is a great adaptation. This really is. This is a really phenomenal adaptation. But the experience of the book starts so much more severe. Like, you get to the fun stuff in the second half of the book. The first half of the book is very dire, and it's very like, from my memory again, like that's almost exactly 3 years ago that I read this. But my experience was like, what the hell is going on? Because he wakes up and it's terrifying. Like, there's a dead body there. He doesn't know who he is, how he got here, what even here is. And he's exploring the ship slowly, and it's just like so terrifying. Whereas in the movie, of course, it opens and it's not scary at all. It's funny, right? Mary, the robot, is giving him like this test, and she's like, what is 2 + 2? And he spits out all the fluids, and she's like, incorrect. And that's a gag, comedic punchline. And I had to really think about it. It wasn't until I watched this twice, and it wasn't until my second time watching it that I was like, I started to slowly come around to understanding, like, they are setting the tone right off the bat that this is a fun movie. And I think the reason that they're doing that is for the other thing that you said. This is a $250 million movie, $200 million after, tax breaks. And so they need to make something that's family friendly. And they are trying to encourage the humor side to appeal to families and you get kids in seats. Because if you stick to the drama of the book and delay the humor, you're going to lose those kids really quick. But if you can make them laugh, then suddenly you got them on board, you got the parents on board. That opens up a whole quadrant of revenue, and it's a very significant amount of revenue. And so I think they felt cornered. Like, look, we want to make this for the fans, but we also need to make sure we get to make the next movie. And so you do have to like alleviate some of those concerns by appealing to a broader audience. And as far as that goes, they did an excellent, excellent job of appealing to that without losing me altogether. Because there was a way to go too far in that direction, and they didn't. They didn't go too far. They went far enough to make me like, I wish there wasn't as much humor, but I still liked the movie. I still had a really good time, and I still want everyone to go watch this. And this is still going to get like, we'll get to the ratings at the end of the thing, but this is still going to be a favorable rating, whatever it is. Yeah, I don't know. Is that kind of your feeling?
Yeah, no, dude, you're right. I'm right there with you. And to add to what you were saying about like not losing me, it's really easy. You're so right on this. It's really easy on a space movie to lose me when you start explaining shit. It is so easy. Like one wrong word and I'm like, I'm out.
Yeah.
I don't like, and I don't like the rest of the movie because I just see faults everywhere. And they walked that line, honestly.
Very tightrope.
Better, I would say, in some ways, better than Interstellar. And I'll tell you why. Because in Interstellar, there are some explanation. There is some explanation that's like, do you really need to explain to me that it's a sphere and show me that? Like, I don't know that that's necessary for the story, but it was an explanation, right? Yeah. And I'm saying this as someone who thinks that Interstellar is the greatest fucking movie ever made. So, right? But nothing is without fault. And but here, you know, they're talking about things that don't really exist, right? They're talking about astrophage, and they're talking about the Petrova line and stuff like, which, by the way, those names are so sick. They're awesome. They're perfect. Yeah. I feel like they're real.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And there's a lot of explanation that has to come along with not only teaching you what these things are, but in a way that doesn't talk down to you, as somebody who already knows a lot about space or thinks you know a lot about space and like how things work. Right. They have to explain to you how they found this out. They have to explain, you know, what these things are that they found and what it's doing and where it's going and why is it going there and not here, and that it's happening in all these other stars, but not this. They have to explain so much shit, so much stuff. And it's so easy to lose me. And I was in it the whole time, and I didn't feel talked down to. I didn't feel like I was mansplained anything. I was just learning along with, well, first off, and maybe this is how they did it. I'm thinking about this in real time with you. We first learn stuff while he's explaining to the kids, you know, what is astrophage and what is a Petrova line or whatever. We're learning that. So we're in the kids' position. He's explaining to us, but then he's learning from Ava, right? So now we're from his perspective. So we get to be the kid and learn the high level stuff. And then we get to be the scientist and learn the granular stuff. And then we get to be, I don't know, the ethereal us to learn things as they're happening. So we get to learn in different stages about all of this stuff that either, you know, we're familiar with, like, you know, the sun, and if the planet increases or decreases by 15 degrees, what that will happen, well, you know, people will starve. But then we get to learn from a more granular level, and so my brain is able to process it fully, but not feel like I'm talked down to. It's just really great.
Yeah, it's a really smart way to, and this is built into the book, right? Where we begin very late into the story itself. Yeah. And whenever you do that, in this way, we raise so many questions, which is very fun for an audience member to have all these questions in our head, like, wait, you know, what is he doing here? And then especially even more questions when you flash back and see that he's a school teacher. You're like, a school teacher does not sound at all qualified to be in this random, like, how does that get from there to there? Like, what? And so you raise all these questions, and to your point, like, they built in, Andy Weir built in a very smart way to, exposit all kinds of stuff between different parties concerned, because on the one hand, obviously, like you said, you have the kids who are scared because the news is doing all this stuff and terrifying the hell out of them. And so who better to ask than their science teacher? And science teacher turns out, has all these insights. Great. And then from there, you have, and this is something I think you would see in Arrival, right? Where you have someone heading up a department that they're not really qualified to do on a technical level, but on a project management level, more than qualified, right? And that's the Forrest Whitaker role as compared to, Sandra Huller playing Ava Stratt. So now you have Ava Stratt, who knows a little, can inform Grace, but the rest is her relying on Grace to inform her. Now you have a reason for them to dialogue and to explain stuff to each other. And what better? And it's built into the story again, because Ava isn't there as an expert on science matters. She's there as an expert on project management matters. And that also informs her character to a T. She's a very severe person, right? And she plays that. Oh, Sandra Huller's so good.
She plays it perfectly.
God. And even those little moments that she gives you that I don't think are in the book of being a little human. I love like the karaoke moment. Amazing. And the fact that she cuts it short just fills that character to a T. Like it's such genius writing, and it's so like perfectly in sync with the story and the storytelling needs. And that's some of the hardest stuff to accomplish, because to your point, if you don't do that well, like if you have another, like if one of those other scientists that the first one that Grace is like, I like that guy. If that guy's in charge, suddenly it becomes a little bit of, okay, maybe there's a little dialogue that needs to happen, but you also start to shortcut. Like you feel as an audience, why are they talking so dumb to each other when they're smart? And they're over-explaining stuff that each other's knows. And that gets into the tropey, like, as you already know, the Petrova line is da-da-da-da. Like, why would they do that? Instead, whenever you're having to explain to a dum-dum who is your boss, now you have to go into more detail than you otherwise would. And that's just built in so many ways to the story. And it's just very, very strong writing. And Andy Weir flexed. He flexed on this story, bro, because The Martian was genius in taking something very basic and simple and explaining to dum-dums like us why and how all this works. But it felt very technically grounded. And for him to take that same attitude and then create things out of nothing, like you said, astrophage and Petrova lines and whatever, Tomebas, and still use basic science to tell this grand, epic story that suddenly, and this was my frustration, and maybe I'm alone in this, reading the book from nothing, no understanding of what the story is going to be, and discovering Rocky was blowing my mind. I didn't expect an Andy Weir story to include an alien. And when it did, it was the coolest thing ever. But walking into this movie, the trailers already indicated that Rocky was there. And then even in the pre-show, the opening beforehand, the quiet your cell phone business, they had a whole bit with Rocky between the directors and Rocky. I hate it. I hate this. I hate that stuff.
I hate that
with
too.
a passion. Like, just let me experience the story. Stop ruining the story before I experience the story. What the hell's wrong with y'all?
They just assume that everybody has already read the book or knows the story, and that's so dumb. Yeah. Like, why do that? I didn't remember Rocky when this movie, like I honestly, when I saw it was coming out, like, oh great, yes, awesome. But I didn't in my brain connect everything, and then I saw a thing about it online, and I was like, that's right. Yeah. I remember now. Okay. I remember everything now. That came flooding back. And yes. And you're totally right. That experience in the book of like coming up on an alien and then like meeting an alien, you're like, what is happening right now? There was no warning at all of that anything would happen like that. So, and they took that away from us.
Yeah. And it's hard because it kind of also goes back to the budget thing, right? Like, you need to market it and you need to get people in seats, and an alien friendship buddy thing is hard to resist from a marketing standpoint. And this is where I don't know what the right decision is there. I definitely think in the pre-show, you should not be running that. Like, stop giving away like his voice and his what kind of thing he is. Don't do that. I think that's really, really dumb. In a preview, teasing an alien maybe makes sense. I could get with that from, again, if this maybe cost $100 million instead of 200 or 250. Maybe that's harder to justify holding back. Got it. But all that said, the other thing that it steals, like all that aside, the other thing that it steals is this is a movie about cooperation, right? Between two entities who are unfamiliar and have to find a way to trust each other, which is the story of space. When you start talking about Russia and cooperating in China and cooperating with America, like these are not friendly countries, but found, a way to communicate with each other through science and exploration. And this movie just embodies that whole mentality through Rocky and Grace. Like that's a very significant experience, but I think you undercut it without the ability to first have that fear, to really say, what is this thing that I'm dealing with? Because it's, infinitely more heightened whenever it's an alien, a foreign species that you're coming across, as opposed to like just trying to get Russia and America to talk during the height of the Cold War. Like that's already, that's fraught. How much more fraught is it whenever you're now in space trying to save the world and you're coming across an alien species? And you can do so much more interesting threats when it's like, oh, maybe this alien species is actually the reason the rest of the galaxy is falling apart. Maybe it's their planning. Like you can start to build up a whole new interesting threat before you realize this is an ally. And that can be, and I got some of those vibes in the book where he's just like, you have to trust someone, and having that experience of fear being overridden by a sense of trust is, I think, a really interesting and a fundamental aspect of space exploration and cooperation that we end up needing. And there's a lot more in that that I want to explore. But I don't know how you feel about that whole aspect of this story, because the other cool thing that I really love was that karaoke scene. You have Milana Weintraub playing Nahilia, I forget her name, Natalia, and she's up there singing Winds of Change. And that's a very important song in world history, actually, because that song, it's so funny because it's by a hair band, right? Scorpion made this song. That's actually very significant and important because they wrote it about the end of the Cold War and the fall of the Berlin Wall. And it was actually, and it's so cool because it was art and it was a reflection of the times, but it also amplified it. It wasn't just like memorializing a moment in time, but it became so popular and such a huge thing that it actually created a sense of unity and like, cultural healing. Like it brought countries together, actually. Not America, but I think between like Germany and Russia, it was significant. This is, from an outsider's point of view, this is my interpretation. So I might be misreading this entirely. But everything I've read and everything I see is it was very important to Russia and Russian culture. This was an American band, right? Like there's something really cool and interesting about art and science coming together to like create a sense of unity, a sense of peace, and a vision for something that isn't to come to be. I don't know. What's your interpretation of all of that, of art and science and, cultures doing something together that governments aren't?
Yeah, it's I think that this story needed to have that addressed, right? If the world is ending in this scenario, what are countries doing? Okay, well, in this scenario, they came together to build a spaceship, right? Like this spaceship, they all did that, but they're not going to come together in any other way. Like they can do so much, but that's about it. And she even says that, Ava says that to him before, they have, when she's asking him to go on the trip and he's saying no. I think I can't remember what it is she said something like the world would have to, ration their food or something, and they won't do that. That's what it was. And so even there in this story, like it's addressed, like what is the world doing to try to save this? Well, this is it. This Hail Mary, that's it. That's all they're doing. This is the only, this is the last ditch, pass at the end of the game to try to get a touchdown. And but everything else, they're going to fight for their own food. They're going to fight for everything to keep their own people alive. They're not going to share anything. And I mean, that makes sense. Yeah. I'm not saying that's good, but like you better believe that I'm fighting for food for my family. If it's something like that happens, I'm not thinking about anybody else. I'm just not, you can't. And I don't fault anybody for doing the same. So I'm glad that they addressed that. And then in terms of like the science, I feel like the science is very grounded. In order to make gravity, they spin. Rocky has the technology to spin at the same rate, right? Which makes sense. It just makes sense because of that. I do think that like the what is it? It's interesting how the ships move, and it's easy to look at that and say, that's not how a ship would move in space. But then you forget that it's powered by astrophage. Yeah. So it can go anywhere at any speed or whatever. The thing that you kind of lose is like, well, what is that doing to Grace on the inside of the ship, right? It doesn't change his law of motion, right? If the ship just goes woof, like that, and then stops instantly, but starts really quickly. I mean, he's getting thrown around in there, right? But that's an easy thing to kind of put aside because you're thinking, the ship is powered by astrophage. But scientifically, it makes a lot of sense about, how they would discover astrophage and about what they would do to try to figure out a solution. And using it as fuel, that's brilliant. I don't know if that answers your question, but like, I think.
No, all good. I love the, I don't know. There's a lot to love. I have a couple more notes, not much.
Sure.
The montage from a writing standpoint, like montages are always going to be fun because you can make a boring thing more interesting, right? You add music and you cut to the visually interesting parts of whatever that is. So like early on, we see that with Carl and Grace, right? They go shopping. He's like, do I have a budget? No. I love that he talks into the walkie-talkie and he just lets out a sigh into the walkie. And then that's when Carl's like, but I do. And they go to whatever, Home Depot or Lowe's or something. And cut to a montage. Why not? Right? They shop, they bowl with tape and whatever, tinfoil, and they become friends. There is one part, because exiting that little montage, I kind of hated because he's checking out and the woman at the checkout is like, you have any coupons? And he's like, I don't need coupons. I'm with the government. And she says, which government? And he says, all of them. And I'm just like, what a terrible setup. Which government?
Yeah.
Which employee in America would ever say which government? As if.
Yeah. Good point.
As if anyone in America even is aware of other governments. Like, yeah. Okay. Anyway, that just bugged me. It was like an obvious setup to be like, yeah, we're representing Earth. Like, okay, there's probably a smoother way in and out, but whatever. It was a one-off. But I just think Carl. Lionel Boyce is just so good. It took me almost the entire movie to place him. Like I was
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, you.
I know, it's one
I
of
don't
my
know how
favorite
you do
shows.
it. Like instantly, I'm thinking the bear when I see him. But you're like watching the movie twice. You're like, oh, that's where. Wow, you.
That was frustrating.
I'm not gonna say you have a problem,
'cause-
but a little bit of a problem.
His voice is so, and his personality is like, why? Oh, I know him. Yeah. It finally, when it clicked, I was like, thank God. That was gonna drive me nuts. Yeah. So, but a montage is always going to be an easy way to like, okay, how can we turn fun? And in this kind of big movie, you want some needle drops. I don't know that I loved any of the songs other than the Beatles at the end. Like, I don't know that I loved any of the needle drops in here. But at least they weren't super overused songs. Like if I hear whatever another Led Zeppelin track in a movie, I'm good. Or ZZ Top. Anyway.
Oh, that was one thing. If I could just interject really quickly, I thought the score at times it was beautiful, but it just overshadowed. It was like too grandiose at times for what was happening on the screen. I thought it was like, here's an emotion, feel it, and that kind of bothered me. I thought a little bit more delicate in a lot of those moments would have been better.
Did you get the feeling at the end of the film during the Talmiba sequence when they're scooping Talmibas out of the planet and out of Planet Adrian, and
yes,
right? They temp scored interstellar docking scene, right?
100%, 100%.
You knew exactly where I was going.
That is the scene.
That is. That bugged the shit out of me. I don't know about you, but it pulled me out because I was like,
it did.
Did they really need to rip? Like, I know it's not a. They masked it as far as you could possibly mask it without still creating their own original piece. But it just rubbed me the wrong way. I really hate that films do that because I don't know who did the score, but I'm sure they're one of the greatest composers. And if it's not like Ludwig or something, I don't know. But
it's not. It's a different guy.
But they were clearly capable of doing something original for you. And I just don't know that you needed to hand them like, just do the docking sequence, bro. Come on, man. That just rubs me so wrong because I'm in the middle of this really fun sequence and all I'm thinking is it's necessary. Like, don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Yep.
Okay, good. I'm glad. Anyway,
it's not just you. As soon as you didn't even say it, you're just like, I thought, and I'm like, yep.
So, okay, back to the positive things, jazz hands. Communicating with Rocky. This is another little writing trick that I think is just smart, which is make the alien smarter than the human. Because they got up to speed very, very quickly on how to communicate with one another. And most of that labor was in Rocky's hands. Like, you get a sense of Grace doing something smart with the programming of the thing. But I loved it because you make it easier to communicate whenever we can remove some exposition, right? By putting the learning curve actually on the alien. Since as an audience, we have a limit on how smart we can believe a human to be. But whenever you have the alien who's like already picking up, like, I understand this human, I understand what he's saying. And it kind of goes hand in hand with his ability of hearing. Like, these creatures are so much more sensitive to sound that their communication comes through sound. So maybe they're just going to be smarter when it comes to learning a completely new species. It's still a stretch, but at least we can throw all our like questions onto an alien that we don't understand in the first place. So like, you know what? Yeah, he's just understanding us instead of saying, yeah, we can't even communicate with our own animals on this planet. So how are we going to like communicate with a whole new species? No way. But yeah, we can buy into them being a little bit smarter than us because why not? Mm-hmm. Aliens are always smarter than us.
I mean, yeah, right? Probably.
Yeah. So I think that's just a very smart little trick. Yeah. Even though whenever you get into the finer details, we're also way more advanced. It's a fine balance that we're more advanced than them in a lot of ways. But they're more advanced than us also in a lot of ways. So we need each other. Even though it's not very clear who's doing what in their science experiments. They just kind of arrive at conclusions. I felt like, I don't know. The other thing that I really loved, and this is built into the story or into the book, which is the bravery gene. This is something that happens on Earth. It starts on Earth between Lau and Grace. And by the way, I was shocked and like disoriented by watching Ken Leung play like a Chinese character because I'm so used to him as an American. He's just American, but hearing him speak like I'm Chinese was like, whoa, damn, he's good. He's another one of those underutilized actors. He is genius. He's so brilliant. And he's been doing it for a long time. I went back recently and rewatched Saw, and I didn't remember him being in Saw. Like, he's a detective with Danny Glover, and he is so good. And I remember him first from Lost, and then now he's in Industry on HBO. But watching him as a completely other character, I was like, man, I just want him in so many more movies. He's so good. He's so compelling to me. But anyway, him having that conversation and being like, yeah, we're going to go die. So it is. The other character, Milena, she's like, yeah, I'm going to have, cyanide with a little bit of lithium. And he's like, whoa, I'll have what she's having.
No, it was a little bit of cocaine or something.
Oh, yeah,
like
that's what it was. A little coke.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Lithium.
Yeah, maybe not lithium.
Yeah, I get it.
Or LSD or mixed with a little hint of...
something like that. Molly.
So and he's like, yeah, I'll have that too. And Grace is like, whoa, I don't have the bravery gene that you guys have. And he's like, no, it's not a gene. You just have to find someone to be brave for. Which goes to the thing that you love to say, man, which I always agree with, is you can't think about a billion people. It's overwhelming. But if you think about one person, right? And the story, I don't know how well it settles into this idea that Grace is really detached from humanity writ large. Like, he loves these kids, and he wants the world to survive, but he doesn't really have any friends, right? He's an outcast in the science community, and what's he doing? Like, he doesn't have a girlfriend or a wife. And the one he did have, kicked him to the curb because she was like, you're too focused on work, on science. And he was like, yeah, you're right. I love science. And so he's not attached to anything. And so what really pans out so well, and if you can do this in a story, man, it's going to be satisfying. Give us a false ending.
Mm-hmm.
They solve the problem, right? They solve how to save Earth and how to save Arid, and they're both saying goodbye, and it feels very final. Like, oh man, I really like these two people together, but yeah, they need to get their solutions back to their respective planets so that their species can live. We want that too, but we want them to be together. So it goes. It's bittersweet, but it needs to be that way. Great. And as the movie is ending, we discover that Grace refused to sacrifice himself to save the world. He actually wasn't brave enough for humanity, right? He's done. Bump that. I want to go live. And the fact that he gets to live, he is happy about. He was like, I didn't believe that's just something you say. It's so good. But we need to then, as we discover that he refused to save mankind, we need to create a moment to give him a chance at redemption. Okay, fine. He won't die for humanity. Will he die for a friend? What a great question. And then you can create a whole new problem that raises the stakes for him specifically. The problem is still solved for humanity, no matter what happens. But will he sacrifice himself for his buddy, who sacrificed himself for Grace? Will he return the favor? Ooh, now you got stuff that movies are made of, right? Like, we can take a moment to give Grace a chance to show what he's now made of. Does he have the bravery gene or not? And let's see. And then of course it plays out in a very satisfying way. Yeah, that's a really cool. Did you remember that whole sequence of the planet or the astrophage is infected with the Talmiba, or was that a surprise to you in the moment?
I didn't remember that specifically. I just remember them solving the problem, and then I do remember him ending up on Rocky's planet, but I didn't remember how or why. Like, but it made sense. I remembered it when they discovered it. Like I was rediscovering these like little moments of like how they get. I know they get there, but I don't remember how they get there. Like at the beginning, it's like I know that he is on the ship, and he is the only one there, but I don't remember how he gets there because there's another guy who's supposed to go, and he doesn't want to go. Like I remember that. So like I didn't remember how, but I remembered the result.
Yeah, same. And I couldn't remember like what's going to get, because all I remembered is that he ends up on Arid, and how he got there, I didn't remember. And so I thought in the moment I was really fooled. I was like, oh, I guess he just goes back home. And now he has to face a humanity that tried to kill him for their own good.
Yeah.
And that's rough. But to your question at the start, like, I don't think in the book he had the option of returning home. I think he sent a final farewell of, I'm now going to go explore Arid and be a part of this new society.
I think you're right.
Right?
Yeah.
And that was just final. And so I agree with you, though. Like, I love the idea.
Oh, no.
No?
It was. I remember now. It was when he discovered that the Talmiba eat the
astrophage?
Eat the ship.
Oh, right.
Because it leaked out.
Uh-huh.
Because that where he was containing it was built by Rocky, which was what the astrophage eat. So if it got out of just that container, it's going to eat his whole ship. And so that's why he went to save Rocky. And I remember that. From the story, from the audiobook of like, he knows that Rocky's going to die. So he has to go find him in the darkness of space.
Yeah.
And the way, man, that was the coolest part of the audiobook for me, was when he's looking for him in outer space.
Months.
For forever, just like looking. And then he finally spots him, and it's just like floating, like it's not moving. It's just floating. I was like, yeah. Anyway, that did happen in book, and it was glorious.
Yeah, no, that part I remembered after it happened on screen, and I was like, oh yeah, this was a whole section of the book, and maybe it was only like a chapter, but it felt like a long time because of how long it took him, because he has to start doing the math. If he left here going at this speed in this direction, when would he have fall? I don't know. And that becomes a quadrant of like, I can go piece by piece of exploring, and it shows his dedication to finding Rocky. And it's so cool. But what I couldn't remember is if they once he was on Arid, if they had built him a ship or fixed his ship.
Oh, at the end.
I don't think that he didn't do. In the book.
I'm sorry. Yeah. I think you're right.
And
they didn't do that.
He just sent a final farewell, like, yeah, I'm gonna go live on this planet now, and that was just that. But I love the switch in the movie of giving him the choice to continue staying there, and I love that shot of the little Iridian kids. They're all jumping.
Yeah, bouncing around. It's so good.
Oh, that's great.
It's so good, man.
I would have loved, and I was talking to Ian about this. I was like, I would have loved to have seen more of Arid. And then Ian was like, yeah, but it's like a dark planet, right? And I was like, oh, yeah, that's fair. Like,
yeah. Yeah, and it's dark and hot.
Yeah. Yeah. But I love that, man. If you can come up with a way to feel like the movie has satisfied all the story elements, and then something else can go wrong or raise the stakes one last time, that's a very satisfying way to test one final time all the things your character's been struggling with the entire movie, which is for him, of course, self-sacrifice, which is not his strong suit. Yeah. Let's see. Anything else?
I think we beat it in the ground.
Yeah.
I covered everything I wanted to. I really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to taking my son. You hit it spot on of like they made it lighthearted at the beginning so that I'll want to bring my son because he'll have fun. He'll love Rocky and he'll love the comedic moments or whatever. And it's not super heavy all the time. I think they did that. You're right. They did that for a reason so that I would want to bring my son to see it. Yeah.
Nailed it. Okay. Well, I don't know. Final thoughts, man?
No, I think that's it. I don't have my reco.
Ooh. Okay. I'm going to recommend a book that was turned into a tragedy of a movie. Don't watch the movie. But the book is called The Electric State. And it's phenomenal. It's a very short read. I mean, you could probably get through it in like 1 or 2 hours. And it's part graphic novel, part just paragraphs. And it's about the fall of mankind, kind of. It's on Earth, and it's humans in a very, I don't know, good luck, have fun, don't die kind of way, have turned to a technology to a degree that's destroying ourselves. Like we're in our headsets and we're, not eating or taking care of ourselves. And it's a very dark look of what an unhealthy balance of technology can do to us. There is a healthy way, right, of using technology, and there's other ways that can start to degrade our own lives. And it's just a beautiful, melancholic approach to that whole thing. And the end really took my breath away. And so I highly recommend picking it up. I found it on like the library, so I just read it through the library, and it's haunting. And this view of humanity, I loved it and can't recommend it enough. And if you read the book after you've watched the movie, you will hate the movie more. And if you read the book and then watch the movie, I can only imagine the sheer rage that will enter into your body. Oh, yeah. But book is great, so stick with that. Anyway, yeah, you got it?
Yeah, okay. I'm going to recommend, I'm not going to say anything about it. I'm just going to recommend it because there's not really any... I'm going to recommend Paris, Texas. If you haven't seen it, it's unique, I would say. And so I'm going to recommend Paris, Texas. I'm not going to say anything about it.
Nice. Well done, man. Stay tuned for next week. We're going to take a look way back at Toy Story 4. I haven't watched it. I've seen the first 3 Toy Stories. I've seen part 3. Is it once? I don't know. These are all movies that I kind of just watched once and loved them. Maybe I saw the first Toy Story a bunch of times, and then the others I'm like, okay, once is good. And then I stopped. Like Toy Story 4 came out, didn't watch it. And yeah, so I think there's probably something interesting that's going on in that movie that will be fun to talk about. I think at least those first 3 Toy Stories were like the pinnacle of Pixar. And so my hopes are the 4th one holds up, because Toy Story 3, bro, it's one of the greatest animations of all time. And so
agreed. I'm curious at what you think, so I'm looking forward to this.
Nice. Very excited.
I've literally seen it 10 times. So
so you're
because I have
familiar.
children. So
You're familiar.
I'm very familiar.
Yeah. And
Awesome.
don't forget, subscribe, review, leave us a note. Something you want us to cover. And if you want to comment on this episode, you can do that at thepestlepodcast.com/Project Hail Mary.
And our quote of the day is from Isaac Asimov. There are no nations. There is only humanity. And if we don't come to understand that right soon, there will be no nations because there will be no humanity. Imagine there's no country. It's easy if you try. Anyway, I couldn't agree more. We are all just people living on different parts of this floating rock in an ever expanding sea of vast universe.
Yeah.
And it's just so funny that like we draw imaginary lines and we kill people over them. And yeah, look, I love my country. I'm proud to be an American, but at the same time, I don't care, because I need to love the person that is in Iran, that is in Germany, that is in China, the same as I love my neighbor. Like that's the point, right? They're not different because they live somewhere else. You know, they might believe in something different than me, but I believe in something different from them, right? Yeah. And that's okay. Whatever. Anyway,
I completely agree, and I think this is, I chose Asimov because obviously he's a big sci-fi reader or writer like Andy Weir is now, and Asimov wrote so many interesting things. Like he wrote the I, Robot series. But he also wrote the Foundation series, which I started reading, and his voice is so funny to me, because he writes from a place where everyone thinks very logically and soundly, which is so aspirational because that's just not reality. And I love him for it though, and I also love him, and maybe from a bigger standpoint, the thing that he's talking about, like. There is no humanity. There's only humanity. There are no nations, right? And I think this is the part that culture can play, where governments are failing. To go back to what we were talking about with Winds of Change and art and science. Art and science, man, transcend all these other little quibbles that we have, which is really what they are. And this desire to control how other people live their lives, this desire to control someone else's place. And if we would stop our governments from trading bombs, and instead, this is something that Ron Paul used to like to say, which is when you stop trading goods, you will start trading bombs. And goods to me are information, art, that's culture, and scientists coming together to solve problems, and sharing art and sharing movies can do so much more to create the world that you want to live in. And too many people are way too concerned about their power and their ability to exercise their power and to exercise it more on people who aren't interested in it. And I think the more we have films like Project Hail Mary, it's so important. It's so important for casting a vision in our minds about what could be, and creating a world of possibility. And it's just so foundational and fundamental for people like Asimov and Weir, Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, Drew Goddard, and to keep putting these ideas out there. Drew Goddard worked on The Good Place. If you haven't watched The Good Place, you are missing out. Like, what a vision. And it's so funny, if you watch just the first episode or even just the first season, you will still not understand what that show is about. You will have to get through that entire show to fully understand the vision that's in place. And it's such a beautiful vision of life and this experience that we're all going through together on this rock, hurtling through space. And we need storytellers to do that. And we need scientists to push past their own individual, like, I need grants and I need this for my own or my own personal well-being, and to stay focused on the science. Because there's, as much as I love science, there are still scientists out there with ill intentions who are trying to abuse, the medium. That's how you get messed up, research papers pushing agendas. Like, that stuff happens too, and we need more scientists who are interested in replicating research papers, which is wild. If you dig into that, research replication, man, buckle up. Like, that's a ride.
It just reminds me of Always Sunny. Science is what is it? Mac is making the case that, like, he's making some ridiculous case, and he says science is a liar sometimes. And he goes through the history of, like, really smart men being wrong about certain random things. he convinces the gang that, like, I don't know, the sun isn't real or the earth, I don't know, something. Anyway, sorry.
But it's such a beautiful thing that we can do as storytellers, where you feel like you're doing something trivial, but you're really not. You're like Gene Roddenberry, we like to bring up all the time, is it created a whole new group of people excited about science. And I think that's what Andy Weir is doing right now. Like, you're going to take Simon and maybe Charlotte, right, to go watch Project Hail Mary, and suddenly they might walk out being like, man, science is awesome. I want to do that. Whatever that is, I want to do it. You don't know. That's what storytelling does. And it's not just always frivolous. It really can change not just people's lives, but change the whole direction of humanity for a better direction. Yeah. And so more stuff as crazy as $250 million is, you can make several of these, for the cost of a handful of bombs that are destructive in nature. This is productive in nature. And I will take a flop over a bomb any day of the week.
100%. Couldn't. Yeah. Mic drop. That's it. Thank you guys so much for being with us through this. Really appreciate you listening. Subscribe, review us wherever you get your podcast. Share us with a friend. If there's a film you'd like to see us talk about or pick apart, let us know. Maybe we will cover it one day. Until then, I am Todd.
I'm Wes.
Go watch some movies.
Oh, yeah.